Hello, I'm a Cat, and did you know that copper originally had a use that was exclusive to Bedrock, and that fish used to have special eggs? And you're not going to believe the mob that frogs were able to eat. Here are 18 removed features from Minecraft Bedrock Edition, and there's even 2 more that are going to be removed soon, so the most efficient thing to do would be to enjoy them while you can. This video was inspired by one of the most fun Reddit threads I've seen, which was about obscure and interesting facts from the Java edition of Minecraft, where you could learn things such as the original version of the end ship had a beacon in it. This was a reward for going there, and that's why there's this piece of glass which is there to let the beacon light out. Even when they decided to remove this from the end ships though, they kept the glass, and so this is the only remnant of that old version. Also, did you know the bank of paintings have an entirely different texture of wood on the Java edition? And also, the first time you enchant an iron sword at level 30, you'll always get looting free. These facts are incredible to me, but they only cover the medium salmon version of the game. I think it'd be really interesting to see something like this for Bedrock, and then I realized, why don't I make this for all of you? And that's what today's video is. We're specifically covering weird, obscure facts since Bedrock unified, nothing from the Pocket Edition days, instead things since Bedrock came together in about 2017, and let's start with the most notable of all of them, the copper horn. This was a clever combination of 2 caves and cliffs features, the goat horn and the copper, and honestly it created some really great tunes, which fun fact changed based on which direction you were facing and if you were crouching. This meant they had to record dozens of different sounds, and an even more fun fact is that you could combine any of these different sounds from the same copper goat horn and it would create something beautiful. Despite the copper goat horn having some great sounds and being a lot of fun to play with, and even the community feedback being mostly positive, something Mojang themselves admitted, they said it was a fun experiment that didn't quite live up to their design goals, and so they decided to remove it. They said that they need to be able to try out new and interesting things and to be able to remove experimental features, and so that is why this feature didn't make it, but that's also why this next feature was removed, because the update Aquatic was the last big update which wasn't hugely focused on parity between the Java and Bedrock versions of the game, and interestingly, it's also an update which added some fish spawn eggs. That's because they were going to be real mobs which existed in the oceans, and so the spawn eggs were unique on Bedrock, and they actually looked like real fish eggs. In my opinion, this was a really great design to show that they were actually a unique type of mob. However, they were later changed to match Java because they wanted to have consistency with the rest of the spawn eggs, but I think it's a little bit of a bummer, and I think it was a really great Bedrock exclusive, just like this next one was. Did you know at one point you were going to be able to get the Totem of Undying from the Ominous Vault? This made its way into preview 1.21.0.20, and it took quite a few updates for them to remove it because they were actively still working on the loot table, and they figured, yeah, a Totem of Undying is something that is so valuable, people will come here for it, and in my opinion, it sounds over the top and like it's devaluing Woodland Mansions, but honestly, Minecraft already did that with raids, so would it have been so bad to do it again? The only thing I can theorize is that maybe they wanted you to have a choice as to how to use your Bad Omen bottles, to use them to get Totems of Undyings from the raid, or use them to get any of the great things, including the mace, from the vaults, rather than just being able to guarantee that the trial chamber would have access to both. That's just my best theory though. Something that isn't a theory though is the fact that there was an exclusive cave coming to Bedrock in the Caves and Cliffs update, because that update of course entirely overhauled the cliffs and entirely overhauled the caves, as you might expect from the name, but interestingly it added a new type of cave that was only found in the cliffs, and this is the Icy Cave. Whether this was a mistake or an exclusive put there on purpose, it's hard to say for sure, but as best I can tell, my video was the first one to find this, and so the name of Icy Caves seemed to have stuck, with even Phoenix SC right here tweeting out, here's some Icy Caves, and then saying that he really hopes it stays. However, sadly for him and for the wider Bedrock community, it seems as though this was a fun bug that they decided to remove later without any real explanation. And speaking of no explanation, the Fireflies are something the community have a lot of thoughts on. Would this be a great new mob to add life to the swamp, or would this be a waste of resources? All we know for sure is that they existed in the Bedrock version of the game, and okay, unlike the other 4 things I've shown off, which were actually in the game and playable with most users, the Fireflies were just referenced in the code all the way from beta 1.18.10.26 all the way out to 1.19.10.20 when it was removed. It was only ever a name that could be seen through commands and code digging, and presumably this was before the decision was made to scrap the Fireflies for the Wild update. But this does tell us that the Fireflies were due to be implemented, and then later they changed their mind about it, as opposed to the other solution which is put out, which is because, yeah, they just suggested the idea but never put anything into it, and so we can see the very earliest versions of it. Speaking of early versions of something, did you know that Minecraft actually removed a feature once because the glow squids were a mob vote winner under some controversial circumstances, but Minecraft actually decided to remove them from the game. Glow squids and all of their glowiness could somehow crash the game, and so they got removed for a little bit between 1.16.210 and 1.16.220, but this meant that no glow squids was a small Bedrock exclusive, but not the good type of exclusive, like item.never_sprouts. This sounds like a normal item, I know, but this is one of the weirdest things because it was a glitched item that you could find while mining the Never Sprouts block after the Never update was in development. This was between 1.16.0.59 and 1.16.0.61, and if you take a look at what this did in your inventory, it's really strange because it looks suspiciously like a spawn egg, except a spawn egg that is taking up an entire square of your inventory. Honestly, Minecraft, Bedrock, and spawn eggs have a weird time, but this is one of the strangest bugs that resulted in a feature that then obviously had to be removed. Speaking of things that had to be removed, by the way, I just realized now, glow squids being temporarily removed, is that in itself a remove feature if they then remove that exclusive feature to add them back to the game? What I will say instead, though, is that naturally spawning tadpoles were a thing between 1.18.10.24 and 1.19.0.21. Basically, all of the 1.19 betas had tadpoles spawning naturally in the swamp waters. This gave some extra life to those swamps, but unfortunately this was removed later because presumably the tadpoles were growing into frogs, and this would result in a very, very crowded, or indeed very swamped biome, which was something they had to fix. Speaking of things they had to fix, in 1.18.10 they decided to remove this pretty nifty feature, the idea of a villager having an emerald above their head. This would let you know when there was someone else in the world that was interacting with a villager, as two players cannot interact with the same villager at the same time. This got removed eventually in the name of Parity, and honestly, unlike most of the features on this list, we can't say exactly when it came into the game. It's kind of an unknown, but it did leave the game in 1.18.10 and is an example of a Bedrock feature that solely just gets removed so they can say Java and Bedrock are closer together, and in my opinion is a bad example of parity. The funny example of parity, though, would have to be this next one, because did you know frogs eat magma cubes and they poop out one of the most beautiful blocks in the game? Honestly, it's a whole pain to actually get this to work in any meaningful way, but frog lights are very, very fun. But did you know for a small time between 1.18.10.26 and 1.18.10.27, frogs could eat something they weren't supposed to? What was that mob? Well, let me just show you. It's so ridiculous, and I have no idea how this even comes about. Are goats and magma cubes close together in the, the mob IDs? Is it that someone was trying to type out the word magma cube and they accidentally wrote the word goat, a very common typo? I don't know. All I know is that this is one of the best bugs that Minecraft has ever had, and one of the weirder bugs that Minecraft has had is that to do with the Woodland Mansion. And no, this isn't the item you think. There was temporarily a item that you could find in the Woodland Mansion, and it's one that came from the Education Edition. So this is the black glow stick, but this is the black glow stick that exists in the Bedrock Edition because it didn't have a texture. It made its way into vanilla, and you could only get it from the Woodland Mansion, specifically in the fake end portal room, which was only on the ground floor. Because it was a very, very rare structure, it was a hard bug to spot. However, interestingly enough, this was something which came into the game 3 separate times. In beta 1.16.210, in beta 1.16.220 and 230, but also in beta 1.18.0.21, which is when it was eventually removed. How is it that this came into the game so many different times, and what was it that caused them to have to fix it? I don't know, but one of my biggest regrets is not taking advantage of it sooner, because this is real strange, and I just like the idea of having a trophy in my world from a previous update, which is where the 12th feature on this list comes in, which is actually kind of the 12th through 20th, depending on how you count this, because did you know that there were all sorts of different armors with efficiency 1 found in Woodland Mansions? The Woodland Mansion has a room which is meant to have an iron axe with efficiency. This is what it has on the Java version, but if you play the Bedrock version, then in 1.16.100 there was a leather cap found there with efficiency. This was a funny meme, a bit of a joke on the channel, but I kind of stopped following it for a bit and assumed like, yeah, well they probably fixed that at some point, but no, in the background while I wasn't paying attention, in 1.19.70 a leather tunic with efficiency 1 was found there again. Then in the next update there were leather pants with efficiency, then leather boots, then a chain helmet, then a chain chest plate, and right now in the 1.21 version, you can find chain leggings in your Woodland Mansion. In fact, this isn't just a hypothetical, I went and did that in my Let's Play world. And so here in a very slightly cursed section of my world, it's so cursed I have to hide my own access to it. Here in a slightly cursed bit of my world, I have some fun armor stands dancing, I have an end portal, it's very realistic, I know, but I also have these fellas right over here with armor you're not necessarily meant to be able to get, and on his legs are these, my Efficiency 1 chain leggings. That's right, I got them, I can have efficient legs anytime that I want, and honestly, here's the great bit about the fact that we know what's going to be in the next preview, 1.20.20, actually, it's going to change and cycle into efficiency boots. So as soon as that update comes out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find the newest cursed item, which therefore represents 8 different features, all the way from the leather helmet down to the chain boots. But you're probably noticing something about this progression through the entire set, which is, oh, now it's gone to chain boots. What will the next update hold? Well, every single update has changed it slightly. I'm sure you can tell the fact that 1.20 is the latest update to change it, and even now it seems to happen with every minor major update, and so 1.20.30 is going to be another one of those, and so what's going to be found inside of it? Well, let's go find out. Okay, I'm here in the right update, and I'm excited to find out. Oh, I'm excited. What's gonna be inside? Ah, it's chain boots with Efficiency 1 still. Interesting. It hasn't changed yet. But they are still efficient. This is probably the least obscure fact here, but it's still very interesting to me because I was sure it would have cycled into the iron helmet. This is because clearly there is something happening in the game code here, which is causing a bug to happen, and that bug is instead of reading the iron axe, reading some piece of armor, and it's got the armors in some big list together, and every update, seemingly, they add 1 to whichever piece of armor it's reading. So the leather cap becomes the leather tunic all the way through into chain, and so after chain, we're expecting to get iron, and then gold, and then to end up with, obviously, diamond and maybe even netherite eventually, at which point they'd almost certainly fix it. But what is interesting is that this didn't change. So one of 2 things is possible. Either this doesn't change for every minor update, only for some of them, or in fact, it's unrelated to the updating in Minecraft, and instead there is a rogue Mojang employee that is just going in and changing this for a little in-joke every update. If so, it would be a perfect marketing gimmick, because I think it's just one of the silliest, goofiest things that Bedrock has, and honestly, I am very excited for the iron helmet, so in case it is a rogue Mojang employee, just remember, you forgot to do it this time, so you can get round to it by the next preview, I hope. But yeah, 1.20.30 hasn't changed it, and so it might stay as the chain boots for a while. It's hard to say for sure. All I know is you're not going to do a very good job chopping down a tree of it, and I also know that this has been an incredibly fun time diving into some of the obscure removed features from Minecraft Bedrock. A part of me almost figured, like, rather than keeping this narrow, we should have gone broader and had weird facts such as the fact that cats will hiss when a phantom flies near them, which will scare the phantom off, all sorts of weird things about stuff like that. I think that we could talk about weird Minecraft facts forever, but hopefully you enjoyed this narrow focused version of the video, and let me know if you want to see more, because you can subscribe and you'll see precisely that on your homepage. If you like learning about the Big Salmon version of the game, then this is the place to be, because thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.